Before you scroll away, listen carefully. This is not just a story about a police dog and a child in danger. It's a story about instinct, silence, and the moment a K9 refused to obey orders, because obeying would have cost a life. If you believe silent heroes still exist, subscribe now and stay until the end, because when officers finally understood why this dog wouldn't leave the child alone, it was almost too late. The call didn't sound urgent. No panic in the dispatcher's voice. No screaming in the background. Possible unattended child. Westfield Community Park. Caller unsure. Officer Daniel Reyes sighed softly as he acknowledged the call. End of shift. Low-risk area. Probably a parent running late or a misunderstanding. He almost left his K9 partner in the cruiser. Almost. The moment Ranger stepped onto the gravel path leading into the park, everything changed. His ears snapped forward. His spine stiffened. His breathing shifted from calm to sharp and controlled. Reyes felt the leash tighten in his hand. "What is it, boy?" he murmured. Ranger didn't bark, didn't growl. He pulled, hard enough that Reyes had to jog to keep up. "Ranger, heel," Reyes ordered automatically. The K9 ignored him. That alone sent a jolt of unease through Reyes's chest. Ranger was trained, disciplined, almost painfully obedient. Disobedience didn't happen. Families were leaving the park. A father folded a stroller. Teenagers laughed near the basketball court. Everything looked normal. Everything except Ranger. His eyes were locked on a bench near the playground, half hidden by trees and shadows stretching long in the late afternoon light. A child sat there, alone. She couldn't have been older than 6. Small frame, pink sneakers swinging inches above the dirt. Her hands were folded neatly in her lap, as if someone had placed them there and told her not to move. She didn't fidget, didn't look around, didn't react as Ranger approached. Ranger surged forward and then stopped abruptly, placing himself directly in front of her. He sat, firm, planted, immovable. Reyes slowed, his instincts finally catching up with Ranger's. "Hey there," he said gently, crouching. "Where's your mom or dad?" No response. The girl's eyes were open but unfocused, too still, too quiet. Ranger whined softly, a low, urgent sound Reyes had only heard once before during overseas training involving chemical exposure drills. Ranger moved closer and pressed his body against the child's legs, positioning himself between her and the open park behind her. Protective, deliberate. Reyes reached for his radio. "Dispatch, I've got an unresponsive child at Westfield Park. K9 showing alert behavior. Request medical priority." As he spoke, the girl's head tilted slightly. Her body went slack. She slid forward off the bench. Reyes lunged and caught her just in time. Hey, stay with me," he said, laying her gently on the grass. Her skin was cold, her breathing shallow. Ranger circled once and then lay down beside her, pressing his chest firmly against her side, as if anchoring her to the ground. Reyes checked her pulse. Weak, fading. "EMS, step it up," Reyes said into the radio, voice tight. "She's crashing." Another officer arrived and instinctively reached for Ranger's leash. "We need the dog clear," Ranger growled, not in anger, but warning. Reyes snapped, "Don't touch him!" The officer froze. Ranger lowered his head, nose inches from the child's face, breathing slow and steady, refusing to move. Sirens echoed in the distance, and in that moment, Reyes understood something that made his stomach drop. Ranger hadn't reacted to the collapse. He had reacted to the danger that caused it, and by the time humans noticed, the threat was already inside her. The paramedics arrived in under 6 minutes. It felt like an eternity. They moved fast, efficient, practiced hands lifting the girl onto a stretcher, fitting an oxygen mask over her small face. One of them glanced at Ranger instinctively. "Dog needs to move." Reyes shook his head. "He stays until she's stable." The medic hesitated, then nodded. Something about Ranger's posture, calm, grounded, unwavering, made it clear this wasn't a normal K9 situation. The heart monitor beeped irregularly. "Pulse is weak," the medic muttered. "Respiration shallow." Ranger rose and placed his nose inches from the girl's sleeve, inhaling slowly, deliberately. Then he sat again, stiff and focused, eyes locked on Reyes. Reyes felt a cold weight settle in his chest. That behavior wasn't random. Ranger had been trained years earlier during a joint federal program. Chemical exposure response, crowd safety, detection of substances that didn't explode or burn but waited, compounds designed to hide inside drinks, food, skin contact. Ranger remembered that smell. Humans didn't. "Sir," the medic said quietly, "this looks like poisoning. Delayed onset." Reyes swallowed. "How delayed?" "Could be hours, sometimes more." Reyes looked back at the bench, the empty playground, the families walking away unaware. "She was sitting here alone." "That's the danger," the medic replied. "It doesn't look dangerous until it is." They loaded the girl into the ambulance. Ranger refused to move until Reyes placed a hand on his neck and whispered, "Okay, boy, with me." Only then did Ranger step back, eyes never leaving the closing doors. At County General Hospital, the emergency room buzzed with controlled chaos. Nurses rushed past, doctors barked orders. Reyes stood against the wall, Ranger seated at heel, his back straight, his gaze fixed on the treatment room doors. A pediatric toxicologist approached 20 minutes later. "She ingested a compound disguised as sugar," the doctor said. "Colorless, odorless. It metabolizes slowly. If she had gone home..." He didn't finish the sentence. Reyes didn't need him to. "She wouldn't have made it through the night," Reyes said quietly. The doctor nodded. Reyes looked down at Ranger. "How did you know?" Ranger didn't move. He didn't need to. Security footage from the park was pulled that night. Reyes watched it alone in a small interview room, Ranger sitting beside him. A woman appeared on screen, early 30s, calm, clean clothes, friendly posture. She sat next to the girl, smiled, spoke briefly, handed her a small drink bottle. No struggle, no raised voice, no reason for alarm. Then she stood and walked away. Reyes paused the footage. "That's it," he murmured. "That's when it happened." Ranger growled low in his throat. The woman never looked back. "She knew," Reyes said. "She knew it wouldn't hit right away." The realization made his skin crawl. This wasn't reckless. It was calculated. The girl's mother arrived just after midnight. She burst through the ER doors frantic, eyes wild, breath uneven. When she saw her daughter alive, hooked to monitors but breathing, she collapsed. "I was gone 10 minutes, she sobbed into Reyes's shoulder. 10. She wanted to stay at the park. Reyes didn't tell her everything yet. He didn't tell her that someone had chosen her child deliberately. He didn't tell her that without a K9 refusing to obey orders, her daughter would be dead. Ranger watched silently from the corner, still, alert. As if he knew the danger wasn't finished. And he was right. At 3 hours and 17 minutes, a second call came in. Different park, same county. Another child collapsed. This time, officers arrived after the symptoms began. That child survived, but barely. Reyes clenched his jaw as the details came over the radio. Same symptoms, same delay, same setup. Ranger stood abruptly, ears forward, body tense. "He's escalating," Reyes said to the captain quietly. "Testing response time." The captain nodded grimly. "Then he picked the wrong city." Reyes looked down at Ranger. "No," he said softly, "she picked the wrong dog." Because Ranger wasn't reacting to chaos. He was reacting to pattern and whatever was happening in those parks. It wasn't over. By sunrise, the case had a name. Not an official one. Not yet. But inside the precinct, officers whispered it the same way they whispered hurricanes and cereal fires. The park case. 3 children in less than 48 hours. Different parks, different neighborhoods, same symptoms. And one constant. Ranger. Captain Holloway stood at the front of the briefing room, arms crossed, jaw tight. Maps were projected on the wall, green spaces marked with red circles. "She's moving," Holloway said. "Testing distance, timing, response." Reyes sat near the front, Ranger lying at his feet, alert even while resting. "Why kids?" an officer asked. "Because no one suspects poison," another replied. "They think illness, allergy, heat," Reyes spoke quietly. "Because kids trust." The room fell silent. The evidence board filled quickly. Security footage, witness statements, toxicology reports. The compound was identified, an industrial byproduct, easy to steal in small quantities, almost impossible to detect without knowing exactly what to look for. "It mimics sugar," the toxicologist explained. "Delayed absorption. By the time symptoms appear, the exposure site is long gone." Holloway rubbed his temples. "Which means no witnesses, no alarms." "No," Reyes said, "except Ranger." Eyes turned toward the K9. Ranger lifted his head, ears forward, as if acknowledging the attention. "How is the dog detecting it?" an officer asked skeptically. Reyes didn't hesitate. "Because he smelled it before." 7 years earlier, Ranger had been part of a federal deployment training unit, chemical spill simulations, crowd evacuation drills, exposure response. Back then, Reyes had joked that it was overkill. Now that training was the only reason 3 children were alive. Ranger had memorized the scent. He didn't forget. Humans did. The 4th attempt almost succeeded. It happened in a park outside Ranger's patrol zone. A little boy collapsed near a playground slide. EMS arrived too late to prevent organ stress. He survived, but with damage. That night, Reyes sat alone in his cruiser, fists clenched around the steering wheel. Ranger shifted in the back seat, restless. "She's learning," Reyes said aloud. "Adapting." Ranger let out a low sound, not a growl, a warning. The task force expanded. Plainclothes officers flooded parks. Cameras were installed. Rangers closed playgrounds temporarily. And still, nothing. The woman blended in perfectly, until Ranger reacted to something that didn't exist on any map. A smell. At a small park near a library, Ranger stopped suddenly during a routine patrol. Sat hard. Locked eyes on a woman sitting on a bench, scrolling on her phone. She looked ordinary, harmless, forgettable. But Ranger's posture changed. This wasn't alert. This was certainty. Reyes felt adrenaline spike. "Target," he murmured. The woman glanced up. For half a second, her eyes met Ranger's. Something flickered across her face. Recognition. She stood and ran. The chase was short. She dropped a bag as she fled. Inside were bottles, powdered packets, notes written in neat, careful handwriting. Dates, locations, parks, more circles on the map, plans. When officers finally caught her, she didn't scream, didn't fight. She just smiled thinly and said, "You were late anyway." Reyes stared at her. "Late for what?" "For stopping me." Ranger sat between them, unmoving, watching. Interrogation revealed the truth. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't madness. It was proof. She wanted to show how fragile systems were, how invisible harm could be, how long it took for humans to react. "I wasn't killing them," she said calmly. "I was teaching." Reyes slammed his hand on the table. "You were poisoning children." She shrugged. "And you didn't notice. Your dog did." That part made her angry. When the case finally closed, the city exhaled. Parks reopened. Parents breathed again. Ranger became a name whispered with gratitude. The children recovered. All of them. Barely. Holloway stood beside Reyes weeks later during Ranger's retirement ceremony. "He didn't just save one kid," Holloway said quietly. "He stopped a pattern." Reyes knelt in front of Ranger, pressing his forehead to the dog's. "You knew," he whispered, "before we did." Ranger wagged his tail once. That was enough. The city tried to move on. That was the first mistake. Parks reopened with fresh paint on benches and new signs reminding parents to stay alert. News trucks disappeared. Headlines faded. The public wanted closure and the department wanted the same. But Ranger didn't. He changed after the arrest, not in a way most people would notice. He still obeyed commands, still worked patrols, still responded with precision. But Reyes noticed the pauses. The moments when Ranger stopped walking and lifted his nose, scanning air that held nothing dangerous anymore. The moments when children's laughter made his ears flick sharply, body tightening before relaxing again. Ranger wasn't celebrating the end of the case. He was remembering how close it had come. Reyes visited the hospital one afternoon, weeks after the last arrest. The little girl from the first park sat up in her bed, color back in her cheeks. Her mother smiled through tears when she saw Reyes and Ranger. "That's him," she whispered. "That's the dog." The girl stared at Ranger with wide eyes. "He's big." Ranger lowered himself slowly to the floor, chin resting on his paws, eyes soft. "He stayed with you," Reyes said gently. "When you were sick." The girl thought for a moment. "I remember being cold." Her mother's hand trembled as she brushed hair from her daughter's face. "You almost lost her," the doctor said quietly to Reyes outside the room. 5 more minutes." He didn't finish. Reyes nodded. He didn't need the rest. Back at the precinct, internal review began. Questions were asked. Why did it take multiple incidents? Why were early signs dismissed? Why did a dog see what trained officers didn't? No one liked the answers. "We rely on patterns we understand," a supervisor admitted. "We don't always listen when something doesn't fit." Reyes thought of Ranger sitting in front of that first child, refusing to move. Not aggressive, not dramatic, just certain. The department awarded Ranger a commendation, a medal, a photo, a handshake. The crowd applauded. Ranger accepted it quietly. Later, when the room emptied, Reyes removed the medal and placed it gently in his locker. "You don't care about this stuff," he murmured. Ranger wagged his tail once. The real weight came later. A report crossed Reyes's desk. A delayed toxicology review from a neighboring county. A child had collapsed months earlier. Park, playground, drink bottle, ruled accidental. Reyes's blood ran cold. He ran the numbers, the dates. It matched. One child had been missed. The realization hit like a punch to the chest. They hadn't stopped the pattern early. They had interrupted it late. Ranger had tried to tell them. But that night, Reyes sat in his cruiser, long after shift end, staring at the dark park across the street. "Why didn't we see it sooner?" he asked softly. Ranger rested his head against the seat, eyes half closed but alert. Reyes sighed. "You did." He reached back and scratched Ranger behind the ears. "So you did everything right." The department recommended Ranger's retirement soon after. "Too much exposure," the vet said. "Too much stress. He's earned rest." Reyes knew what that meant. The dog who had refused to leave a child alone, who had stood between invisible danger and innocent lives, was being asked to step back now. Ranger accepted the news without protest. He always did. But the night before his final shift, something happened. They were passing a playground when Ranger stopped. Sat. Hard. Reyes' heart leapt. "What is it?" Nothing was there. No child, no stranger, no danger. Just empty swings creaking in the wind. Ranger stayed seated for a long moment, then slowly stood and walked on. Reyes swallowed. He understood then. Ranger wasn't reacting to threat. He was saying goodbye. Retirement was supposed to be quiet. That was the promise they made. No sirens, no radios crackling at dawn, no sudden commands cutting through sleep. Ranger was moved to administrative duty first. Short walks, basic demonstrations for recruits, calm environments meant to ease him out of active service. It didn't work. He listened to commands. He performed routines, but something inside him stayed alert, coiled, ready, like a soldier who had left the battlefield but never left the war. Reyes noticed it immediately. During walks, Ranger stopped often, lifting his nose to test the air. Not frantic, not anxious, methodical. "Nothing there," Reyes would say softly. Ranger would glance up at him, then continue. But Reyes knew the truth. Ranger wasn't searching for danger anymore. He was searching for confirmation that it was gone. The department psychologist asked to observe Ranger one afternoon. She sat on a bench while Reyes walked the dog slowly across the training yard. "Has he always been like this?" she asked. Reyes shook his head. "Only after the park case." She nodded. "He developed anticipatory vigilance." "Meaning?" "Meaning he learned that silence doesn't equal safety." Reyes exhaled slowly. One evening, Reyes received a letter, handwritten, from the mother of the first girl. Inside was a photo, her daughter standing in front of a playground, smiling, holding a stuffed dog that looked suspiciously like Ranger. On the back, a note. "She doesn't remember what happened, but I do. Thank you for believing your dog." Reyes folded the letter carefully and placed it beside Ranger's bed at home. Ranger sniffed it once, then lay down beside it. Peaceful, but the case wasn't done with them. A month later, a federal investigator contacted Reyes. "We believe your suspect was part of a larger network," he said. "Low-level operative, copycat methodology." Reyes's stomach dropped. "You're saying this could happen again?" "It already has. Different state, similar compound, similar parks." Reyes looked at Ranger. The canine stood instantly, alert, focused, ready. The investigator hesitated. "I know he's retired." Reyes didn't answer. Ranger already had. They flew out 2 days later. Temporary reinstatement, limited duty, Ranger under direct supervision. The new city felt unfamiliar. Different smells, different air, but the pattern was the same. At a public playground, Ranger stopped suddenly, sat, stared. A woman stood nearby, phone in hand, watching a group of children. Reyes felt the weight of certainty settle in his chest. "Target," he whispered. Backup moved in. The woman bolted. This time she didn't get far. Inside her bag, substances, notes, routes. Another plan stopped. Another child saved. Back home, Reyes sat on the floor with Ranger, arms resting on his knees. "They wanted you to rest," Reyes said quietly. "But you weren't done." Ranger leaned against him, not tense, not alert, just present. Reyes realized then something important. Ranger didn't need retirement. He needed closure. The department granted it officially a week later. Full honors, lifetime care, permanent placement with Reyes. No more patrols, no more cases, just mornings, sunlight, quiet. Ranger adapted slowly. The vigilance softened. The pauses shortened. For the first time in years, he slept deeply. Sometimes during evening walks, children passed by laughing. Ranger would watch them calmly now, not scanning, not measuring, just watching. Reyes smiled. "You did your job," he whispered. "You did more than anyone could have asked." Ranger wagged his tail once and kept walking. The city council chamber was not built for silence. It echoed with murmurs, shuffling papers, the low hum of impatience that came whenever officials believed they already understood a problem. Ranger lay at Reyes's feet as the committee reviewed the case. Charts, timelines, bullet points projected neatly on the screen, human explanations. What they struggled to explain was the gap between the first warning and the first response, the gap between instinct and protocol, the gap where children almost died. Reyes stood when called. He didn't bring slides, he brought Ranger. "This dog disobeyed me," Reyes said plainly. "More than once." A few heads lifted. "He refused commands. He blocked my path. He ignored procedure." A council member frowned. "And yet you're saying this as praise?" Reyes nodded. "Because if he hadn't, 3 children would be dead, maybe more." He described the first park, the bench, the way Ranger sat and would not move, how officers tried to pull him back, how everything looked normal until it wasn't. "What my partner detected wasn't chaos," Reyes continued. "It was absence of safety." A silence finally settled over the room. A pediatric specialist spoke next, then a toxicologist, then an analyst who laid out the pattern that Ranger had recognized days before any system flagged it. The conclusion was uncomfortable. Their systems reacted. Ranger anticipated. By the end of the session, one council member leaned forward. "What are you asking for, Officer Reyes?" Reyes looked down at Ranger, then back up. "I'm asking you to listen to the warnings that don't fit your checklists, because danger doesn't always announce itself." Policies changed that day. Not dramatically, not loudly, but training manuals were updated. Canine behavioral alerts were reclassified. Instinct-based responses were no longer dismissed as anomalies. Ranger didn't know any of this, but he felt the shift. That evening during a quiet walk, he stopped and looked at Reyes, not alert, not tense, just calm, as if something heavy had finally been set down. Years passed. Ranger grew older, slower. The gray around his muzzle deepened. His steps softened, but his eyes, those remained sharp, kind, aware. He lived with Reyes now, officially and permanently. No uniforms, no radios, just mornings filled with sunlight and evenings with quiet streets. Sometimes, children recognized him. "That's the dog," a mother whispered once, "the one from the park." Ranger wagged his tail politely. He never understood praise the way humans did. What he understood was presence. One afternoon, Reyes took Ranger back to Westfield Park. The same bench stood there. Newly painted, clean, ordinary. Children ran past laughing. Ranger stopped. He sat. Reyes's breath caught for just a second, but Ranger didn't tense, didn't scan, didn't alert. He simply watched, satisfied. Reyes knelt beside him and rested a hand on his back. "It's over," he whispered. Ranger leaned into the touch. Later that year, Reyes received one last letter. Inside was a drawing from the little girl who had collapsed first. It showed a big dog sitting in front of a small stick figure with pigtails. Above it, written in uneven letters, "Thank you for staying." Reyes swallowed hard. He placed the drawing above Ranger's bed. Ranger sniffed it once, then lay down beneath it, peaceful, complete. If this story stayed with you, if you believe that sometimes the greatest heroes are the ones who refuse to walk away, subscribe to Silent Heroes Stories for more unforgettable stories where instinct, loyalty, and courage save lives when it matters most.